Minister Vladimir Putin answered questions for over 3 hours from across Russia by internet, by phone, by live translation, and by text messaging. He covered, the questions rather, covered a slew of issues. A lot of them focused on the financial crisis. But the fact that Vladimir Putin did this as president for years, his first one was in 2001, and that he had such high popularity, people obviously feel that his experience will be needed in Russia's foreign policy. A lot of questions about that, including about U.S.-Russia relations. We know that the Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev, thinks the election of Barack Obama could be a second wind. Well, now it's clear that Vladimir Putin also has optimistic views as to what a new administration could bring to the table for U.S.-Russia relations.
Normally, when power changes in any country, especially in such a superpower like the U.S., changes happen, and we always hope for positive changes. At the moment, we can see those positive signals being sent out. For instance, at the NATO meeting, both Ukraine and Georgia were refused membership action plans. We have been hearing from the people close to the president-elect, there's no point rushing with this, no point spoiling relations with Russia. We hear that it's necessary to re-evaluate the reasons for placing part of the missile shield in Poland and the Czech Republic. We hear it's necessary to build relations with Russia, taking into consideration its interests. If this is not just words, and if they are reflected in the practical politics, our reaction will of course be adequate, and our American partners will feel it straight away.
Now, another hot topic on Russia's foreign policy, of course, is Georgia, relations with South Ossetia, and the war that happened this past summer. It's discussed all over the world, and there was quite an unusual question that was asked about that. I just want to give you some background. Last month or so, there were allegations by certain press services that in a conversation with French President Nicolas Sarkozy, that Vladimir Putin did make quite a harsh comment, saying that he would like to hang Saakashvili by a certain part of his body, let's just say not his neck. It caused quite a scandal, and one of the questions were directly asked about that. Let's listen to the question and to the answer which Vladimir Putin used to very seriously, in fact, speak about relations with Georgia.
This August saw horrifying events in South Ossetia. Is it true that you promised to hang Saakashvili by an unmentionable part of the body?
Why by just one? No, speaking seriously, we are aware of the tragic events in another part of the world, Iraq, which American forces entered under the false pretense of looking for weapons of mass destruction. They didn't find any weapons, but hanged the leader for a different reason, the wiping out of several Shiite villages. The leadership of today's Georgia undertook a massacre of civilians in South Ossetia, wiped 10 Ossetian villages off the face of the earth, attacked our peacekeepers, and killed many of them. Iraq did not attack America, but Georgia's was an attack on Russian servicemen performing their duties, and someone has to be held responsible for this. This is not just a crime against Russia, the Russian people and the Ossetian people, but against the Georgian people as well, against Georgian statehood. Georgia sustained a terrible blow on its territorial integrity. If this hadn't happened, Russia would have continued with its efforts to create conditions for a territorial uniting of Georgia. But after this aggression, it became obvious that this is not possible. Actions are needed that would prevent such bloodshed in the region in the future. And the Georgian people must make their own decision on how the people who brought about those grave and dramatic events will be held to account.
Well, like I said, Vladimir Putin spoke for 3 hours. Most of the questions that were asked had to do with the financial crisis. This is something people are very worried about, and he took the time to speak in great detail about it. Of course, we don't have time to explain everything, but his gesture was building confidence. He told the Russian people, look, we've been through harder times. We got through the turbulent 1990s. We will, one way or another, get through this. This was a tradition as president to take this time, these 3 hours or so, to speak to the people, and it looks like it could become a tradition as prime minister. An interesting note, more questions were given in this year with him as prime minister than in previous years with him as president.
Listen, now reporting there for us. Well, journalists also got the chance to ask questions after the Q&A session with the public, and the foreign media took the opportunity to return to one of their favourite topics. When asked about a possible early return to the presidency, Putin talked up the work he'd been doing in tandem with Dmitry Medvedev. He also said that there was plenty of work that needed to be done, without speculating about what might happen at the next election in 2012.